Hello, this is Matt Nuzum. I am a small business attorney based in Ankeny, Iowa, and I am here with Lisa Schmitz. Lisa, tell us about yourself.
Hi, Matt. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I own Lisa Schmitz Agency, LLC here in Ankeny, which is an American Family Insurance office. And I have been in Ankeny now for 20 years in 2023. So I do all insurance products, auto, property, business, life, short-term health, disability, and a lot of commercial products as well. Recently just also added being able to do mortgages. So I'm also licensed mortgage originator.
Well, with 20 years of experience, I bet you have seen a lot of bad scenarios where people have lost money and you wish that you could have been there earlier to help them avoid it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is the business that I'm in. You always want things to go perfectly for people. Yes, when you sent me this video to look at, I immediately thought of, a scenario or two where I thought, I've seen this before, but definitely has happened over the years. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this. I saw this on the news recently, and this is going on in Michigan. So this is not local to Iowa or the Des Moines area. But this man, Ryan Long, had been living the dream, preparing his business to be opened. And he wanted to open a brewery in Michigan. And if I understand correctly, he is over by the Great Lakes area where a lot of people bicycle and hike. And he wanted to have a destination that people could stop at on the way and have a refreshment or meal. And he'd been doing this as a passion project kind of on the side for a while. He'd bought all of his fixtures, his windows, his doors, his equipment. He had some construction machinery. And one day he came in and found that people had broken in and vandalized the property. And you can see this picture here on the screen where there's all these broken windows. These teenagers, as it turns out, broke over 100 windows. They removed the pipes, they removed the plumbing, they opened the construction vehicle's oil tank and filled it with sand. There was a delivery van that they demolished. They broke out all the windows on that and damaged it. And the total cost of the damages were about $200,000. The teens that did this were known to the police, and they were about 13 years old. And when they were confronted, they didn't show any remorse whatsoever. Yeah, this is a pretty sad situation. And even more sad is two serious things. One is he did not have any kind of insurance to protect him in this case. And so that means the only chance that he would have of recovering the losses would be by suing the teenagers. But it's difficult. I can tell you this from a legal perspective. It's difficult to sue because A, it can be tricky to prove, but even if you do prove it, a court case is going to take a long time. It's going to be expensive. And then if the teenagers don't have any property, you're going to go after the parents. If the parents don't have the money or the property, what are you going to do? You're going to win and not get any money. And when I saw this, it was really heartbreaking because I love small businesses. And I thought, I wish he'd had the right kind of insurance. And that's why I wanted to talk to you, Lisa. If you could rewind the clock and talk to Ryan Long, who owns this brewery, and said, Ryan, I think you should do this, what would you have told him to do?
Yeah, man, this situation is very sad, especially just with what he all had into the, living his dream to make his brewery. I think from day one, Ryan could have protected himself from day one. People think that, I'm going to build a home, I'm going to get insurance on that home. Well, same thing with the business. I'm going to build a business. The day you break ground or the day you get materials there, you can put a dwelling under construction or builder's risk is what people in the mortgage world or, finance world think of it as called, but you can do that on a commercial property. It doesn't have to be something where you're going to live in it. It can be where you're going to have a business in it. And again, depending on the amount of the products that he had there from day one, he needed a brace coverage over time. So he could start small. It might have even been a really expensive policy to begin with. And then over time, he could, increase that to match the property that he had. But so number one, he definitely needed to get some sort of building coverage, property coverage for that building. We too many times here, clients will call in, even if it is something like this, and say, I need a GL policy. And that's what people will think. It's called a GL policy, and that's general liability. General liability would not have even helped Ryan in this situation. If one of those kids got hurt on that premises, even while they were there breaking in, they could have maybe even essentially come back potentially and sue him if he didn't have insurance. As sad as that sounds. I mean, he really just needs to protect himself all the way around. But yes, he could have completely had some sort of property coverage to protect himself in this situation. Ryan's like, well, I don't have enough money to open that business, so why do I want to spend the $1,000 or $2,000 a year to insure it yet when I'm not bringing in any income? Well, that's just part of, unfortunately, the risk that you have to take when you're looking at an overall business plan. So he chose to pocket maybe a little bit of money in that long run, but look at now, he's out everything.
That's so frustrating. So I talk to a lot of business owners, and one of the things that I tell them is, if you are a business owner, you want to make sure you have the right insurance, and you also want to have an insurance agent who understands your business and can recommend the right products and services. So exactly what would you have recommended to Ryan in this situation if he had walked into your office?
Yeah, so Ryan, number one, would have needed what we call a business owner's policy package. He owns the building that's going to be constructed, he owns the land, and he owns the property. So he kind of needs a threefold policy with everything included. So he would have had a liability policy within that. Typically $1 million is kind of the starting point. We can go up from there for liability. He would have needed a dwelling under construction endorsement on that policy, which would cover all of those added materials that come in over time, whether he's building it or a contractor is doing it. Either way, he can add that endorsement onto a policy. And then, of course, for everything inside, once it is constructed, for his brewery, all the tables and equipment, probably likely would have an office in there. So he'd have office equipment. He would have needed a contractor's/business owner's policy package. And he could have had all of this be covered with an insurance company representing him, then let the insurance company go back to the family of these kids and try to subrogate that loss back for him. He would have been out his deductible. That would probably have been it. So there was definitely an option for Ryan.
So I understand how Ryan here, who was trying to save money by not insuring property that wasn't producing revenue yet. If somebody comes into your office and says, Lisa, I don't know if I can afford this, what are some of the things that you can say or do?
Well, and there is options as well within a policy. Maybe Ryan could not have afforded the full $200,000 in coverage from day one. He could have started differently. Maybe he would have said, I only have $50,000 in property that I need to insure today. That's some options. We can look at modifying the policy, maybe look at a little higher deductible, maybe not the full higher liability to start with, but something is definitely better than nothing. So there's going to be options with that. But at the end of the day, I'll always sit down and say, how much is your investment worth protecting? It's always going to cost less to have insurance than it will be if you have to start from scratch. So you just kind of have to help them with the mindset of saying, how many pizzas a month is this really going to cost you? Really break it down for them.
That's really interesting. I don't know that a lot of people know this, but if you've got a good agent who understands your business, you can come in and say, I just need this amount of coverage now. And then in 6 months, if your risk level goes up or maybe your risk tolerance goes down, then you can increase your insurance as your needs change, right?
Absolutely.
Well, so that helps people save money then if they do that, right?
It'll, more cost effective doing it that way. The other thing too is a good agent is going to sit down and meet with you minimum every 18 to 24 months. That's the thing too, where clients will come or, you're talking to a potential new client and they haven't talked to their agent in 5 years. So much changes on an annual basis that you really need to make sure that you have an agent, especially with business insurance.
So you have an office here in Ankeny. I've been there. And so people who are interested in talking to an agent, they can walk in and talk to you. You've probably heard some heartbreaking stories. You've probably had some people cry at your desk, but you are there for them. And I do think this is an important part for business owners when they're looking for insurance, is that they need someone who knows what they're doing and they can talk to. If they're in a pinch, they can walk into your office and sit down and say, what do I do now?
Absolutely. I think it's the same too from a legal perspective, for you. They need good, attorney advice for things that, the insurance part can't help them with. So it really does go hand in hand with business insurance now.
So let me ask you a question. I'm sure that a lot of people are looking at this scenario and they're just bitter about the injustice of these vandals getting away with it. Do you think that if he had had insurance and the insurance company had gone after them, they might have been brought to justice?
I do think financially they could definitely be more susceptible to be held to justice if the insurance company is out there battling for the client, as you probably know, the insurance company is going to have their legal department. It's who's actually going to be going after, the at-fault parties here, whether it be the kids or the parents, most likely in this situation. They can be really relentless. So there's certain, they could really, go back to people similar. They can do that in business. They can do that in auto. It happens. So yeah, I think just having that backup on your side, that's part of your premium that you're paying for that maybe people don't think about. Not only your liability, but you are really paying for a legal backup plan as well in situations like this.
I agree. I've seen it happen. I've had clients who I said, go talk to your real estate or your insurance agent, and they went and took care of it. And the agent turned it over to their claims department, and the lawyer on their team took over and just said, you can rest easy. I've got it from here. And that is nice. And it's a lot better than paying me if you get into a legal situation, because the insurance company, it's their interest to fight this on your behalf. So I think that's a good idea. Well, there's a lot of unique kinds of businesses and a lot of unique kinds of risks. What are the kinds of businesses and such that people don't necessarily think about as having risks and needing insurance that you want to make sure hear this story today?
Yeah, that's a great point. I would say with so many pop-up home businesses, a lot of people are doing, for maybe some supplemental income. If someone comes to your house, falls in your property, the insurance out, oh, this was actually during a business transaction. There may not be coverage, for that person. So there's not only the big companies or the big corporations, the storefronts that you think about. Of course, they have insurance, right? They have to have insurance. It's even homemade businesses that people should maybe be asking their insurance advisor, do I need coverage for this? What would happen if? So I would say if you don't have a good insurance agent, of course, feel free to call me, ask me questions, and ask the what if question. It's always better than when you have to deal with the what if.
Now, if I understand correctly, maybe this isn't true anymore, but if you had a lower risk business, then your insurance premiums were generally lower. And if you had a higher risk business, then your insurance premiums are higher. Is that still true?
Absolutely. Very true. And most companies do have a minimum insurance premium cost for a commercial policy. And a lot of those smaller, low risk businesses are going to fall into that. So people may, not even realize how affordable liability or commercial policy can be.
Well, Lisa, thank you so much for meeting with me. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on this situation. I really do love to see Iowa small businesses succeed. And it breaks my heart when I see business owners go through so much torment and struggle. Now, as it turns out, that Ryan Long had a huge outpouring of support from the community. A lot of people offered him financial support, emotional support, and he has gotten a lot of help. So I know that does not take away the entire sting of this injustice, but I think he's going to bounce back. And so I'm glad for that.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. I didn't know that he had a backing. That's great.
Yeah, I think that there was a GoFundMe that was put out there, and a lot of people donated to him. So I think he's gonna pull through this. However, it would be a lot less stressful, a lot less heartbreaking for him and the community if he would have had a good insurance. So if you are a small business, I tell this to people all the time. They come into my office. I'm concerned about my risks. I think I need a lawyer, and I say, if you do only one thing, talk to a good insurance agent, because they are your front line of defense for risks. I am here to help you with any of your legal and business questions. Lisa is here to help you with your insurance questions. Reach out to a professional who knows these kinds of risks. So I think with that, we will call it a wrap. Thanks for your time, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.